I'm Josh.
And I'm not Josh. And together we are
Joshing around in there.
I don't know why I did that.
I was wondering how long is it going to take for one of us to start singing at that moment. And it turns out today's the day.
It turns out not too long. Cool. Guys, it's good to be back. Got the mango and pineapple scented candle back. We got all of us back in the building with the same, actual microphones this time, which is exciting. Not just you holding your phones in your hands.
Yeah, which means that a solid 0.8% of listeners are going to notice.
Yeah. Oh,
quality.
I was actually surprised by how good that sounded. But yeah, I believe we have a drink for us to start off with. It is. Sam, do you want to introduce this one as you brought it?
I think we should pour it out, and then based on our responses,
people should figure it out.
In guesses of what it is that we're drinking.
Amazing. Let's do it.
I can't get it.
Legend. Thank you, Sam. Should we give clues?
Well, I feel like just looking at it, I can feel my beard being like sucked back into my face.
Is that through change of gender or reduction of age?
I was thinking reduction of age rather than changing gender.
Oh no, I was thinking reduction in masculinity.
Here we go. Oh, that's not as fizzy as I was expecting.
Oh, I had a little bit of a quiz. Oh, nice. Oh, I've got one here.
Do you know what it's kind of reminded me of? It's, when you go to the hairdresser and they put the scissors and combs and stuff in that gel. It feels like it's the exact same colour as that like antibacterial whatever it is.
No, this is mouthwash colour, man, 100%. Like Barbicide.
yeah. Thank you. I'm picking up sugar on the nose.
That was the most unceremonious pour I've ever seen. That was the dregs of the bottle just going glug, glug, glug.
At least I got some in it this time, not after...
Guinness. Fairly even amounts. Cheers, boys.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Here we go. It's a Pepto-Bismol.
It's a Barbicide.
I mean... That is the flavour of nostalgia.
Yeah, I feel like I am 16.
Yeah.
I'm at a party and all of my Strongbow dark fruits have been drunk. And all that's left is this drink that some teenage girl has brought along.
Yeah, it tastes like the colour, and that's the only thing.
Yeah. So as listeners might want to appreciate, this is in fact WKD. Which is an Alco Pop, I guess. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
What flavour is it? Is it just blue or
WKD
it's
blue?
Just blue drank.
Yeah. I feel like all the American listeners will appreciate the flavour blue. I feel like there's a lot of things come out of America with the flavour blue.
Oh yeah.
Like Prime's half English, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it is. It is.
But this reminds me of that. The
reminds you of Prime.
Yeah, it's got that same
it's
whatever
weirdly
the
not a sweet
blue flavour is. It's just there you go. Someone could write in and inform us.
What's the blue one? Is
what
it
is blue?
Metamoon? No, Metamoon's the white one, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know what the other ones are.
Maybe it's raspberry.
Ooh, yeah,
blue raspberry.
Is this raspberry?
Yeah, it was properly artificial raspberry. I mean, I have no idea what the flavour is meant to be, but there's just sticking a straw into the top of a bottle and just chugging it back so it barely touches the sides. That's what that flavour.
Yeah, I remember on my 18th birthday, my brother made me do a strawpedo.
I once won a strawpedo competition.
Sorry, what? A strawpedo competition?
Yeah.
Go on.
I was at uni and there was come and enter this competition. You pay £5 to cover the drinks, and then if you down this set of drinks faster than anyone else, then you get to take home a glow-in-the-dark Hawaiian shirt and a sarong.
And a what? A
sarong? You know, like a It's basically a blanket, like a thin blanket that you wrap around yourself like a skirt.
Oh,
which I was wearing lots.
Tell me you're middle class without telling me you're middle class.
With a little Archer's Aqua logo in the corner.
I'm just going to put it on my, what do they call it? Their font that, like, when you have like a little kind of sofa thing by your window, like a little font. No, it's a futon. That's it. A little futon. Oh man, yeah. Well, thank you for bringing that, Sam. It is, you know what? Weirdly delicious. It is. I'm enjoying it. I love sweet things, so this is always a plus.
It's definitely a sweet drink, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, any of you guys got any more thoughts on WKD, or should we move on to the listener question?
I think
we should move swiftly on.
Hey, look, you can say that, mate, but your glass is more empty than any of us. Right, well, guys. Oh, I'm so excited. We've got actual listener question. Because all of our previous ones have been 100% genuine, of course. But this is from our good friend Drew, who I've never met in real life. I feel like I know him like a close friend already. Just the amount we've been talking over text. Yeah. One of the funniest things he sent me in the last couple of days. It was, Josh, if I die before my Sorcerer King's army arrives, please bury me with it. I was just like, that is brilliant. And that's exactly the kind of guy that Drew is. But yeah, he sent in a lovely question. Hi guys, I was wondering if the rumours are true that spires smell like bacon when they decay. Is that true? ? Cheers, your 8th biggest fan. What's the legend? I feel like I should have introduced him as Drew. I should have just said it, but yeah.
So do spires
smell like bacon?
Bacon. Well, I'm not sure where that rumour has started from. I think you'll find that it's when spires are causing humans to die through aura of death. That's where the smell of bacon comes from. When spires decay, I think it's just more of that rotting flesh smell.
It's more like it's kind of old spam frying, like not that nice bacon smell, but like
that's that weird scent that you sometimes get when you open the fridge and you know that there's something off in there and you can't. No,
it's like when you open a pack of ham and it's like that first smell you get, which is just kind of gross.
Yeah, it's that, but yeah, times 10.
Yes.
I don't know, I disagree. I think seeing spires decay fills me with the same joyous emotions as when I smell bacon. And so for me, seeing those dice roll, just seeing like a really unlucky amount of 5s and 6s, just it's love. Yeah.
That's right.
So yours is more on a neurological level than anything else, really.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the smells are the same. My reactions are the same.
Okay, yeah, nice. Does your face light up as you watch all of these force-grown drones meet an early grave?
Yeah.
That's early for a force-grown drone. How long are they meant to kind of survive? It's not long, is it? Because they're literally, they're grown so quickly, they don't even have like an immune system that works. So they have to be like, all their wrappings you see on the model are like doused in like kind of, what is it, antibacterial fluids or something, right?
That's right, yeah. I can't remember what the amount of time it is.
I thought something like 2 weeks or something.
Oh, really? That long?
Oh, maybe it's not as long.
I thought it was like as soon as they're out of the pod, they're already in the process of dying. So you just, make you die while you're hitting the enemy. That's more an effective use.
Isn't that a kind of commentary on life, right? That
I think
as soon as we're out of the womb, we're already slowly dying, right?
I think force-grown drones are ultimately their first unit.
Yes.
That's unique to Conquest that was in the original starter set, and I really think that Stavros in mind was just, how can I create an appropriate metaphor for life? I know 4 scrum drones. Yeah, fair enough.
Perfect. Cool. I think it'd be good if we chat about the Southampton tournament that we spoke about in the last episode. I've been very encouraged by the amount of people who listened to this. I think we had several conversations over that Saturday we went, of people who listened to it, and I literally released it the night before. So people were listening to it in the car on the way to the tournament. I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah, get you in the mood.
So yeah, shout out to all of you guys. That's amazing. But yeah, so we went there, headed off in the morning. Josh came and picked us up kind of 8 o'clock. I don't know why I'm doing this like right from the get-go, but you know, had a little, what was it, hour and a half drive, wasn't too bad. And then made our way in. I think I think were we one of the last people there? Because I feel like we made decent time, but there was still like, everyone was just so keen to be there. They were like, boom, here we go.
Yeah.
I think, what was it, David made he made an announcement that the Joshes had arrived or something like that, I think, when we walked in.
Didn't stop you getting greeted as Rob.
Yeah, we still got greeted as Rob.
That was so good.
James came up to both of us. I love that so much. What a legend. What a legend. But yeah, so we each had 3 games each. I think it was, I've like, from the get-go, I thought I had a great time. Like, everyone there was super nice. I think it had been well organised, and yeah, everything was just like super chill. I don't think anyone was like super hard on like enforcing this specific rule, or like there was that specific thing that had to happen or something. It was more like, let's just make this work.
Yeah.
David did make a few rulings throughout the day. But
yeah, he saved my divinity with one of his rulings, which I was very grateful for.
Yeah, he did. Well, he saved you from an awkward conversation with someone you were severely.
Oh, I was already winning by quite a lot at that point, so I wasn't. I don't think I was going to enforce the rule. But then when David came past and like said, "Oh no, you're not allowed to charge to your own regiment if they're in combat," I was like, oh yeah, that is a rule. Like, just guiltily in the corner, like, yeah.
Oh yeah, I suddenly remember.
Oh, this is going to be really one-sided now.
But yeah, man, it was a great tournament. So yeah, we played 3 games each. I think the first scenario was melee. I think that was the first one, or was it? Was that the second one?
It was the one with 6, like in a squiggly line in the middle of the table. I can't remember what that
that's
one was
melee.
called.
Yeah, so we basically
4.
Yeah, it was 4 objectives, wasn't there?
Could be.
It was melee, definitely a 6.
Can't remember.
Right. While Josh looks at that, I think we'll each talk about each 3 of our games and just kind of run through them quickly. Our kind of highlights, cool things that happened. But yeah, I'm happy to start.
Sure, yeah.
I think I had a few good games. I actually made some notes. I'm just going to bring them up real quick. But my first game was against a lovely chap called James. He was playing City States. So it was actually the first of 2 games that I played. Sorry, Josh, you're showing me something.
It was melee.
It was melee. Cool. Okay.
As soon as Josh says, I think it's 4, everything inside me goes, I know that you've got it right. There's not a single time where Josh and I have a disagreement. I've got it right.
Yeah. But yeah, so we were playing melee. So that's basically you just score points for 4 objective zones, and then you score a bunch of points for killing enemies, regiments, and characters and stuff. So I felt like because I had a lot of units, I felt like maybe I was a little bit disadvantaged in this game. But actually, kind of, I think he had a similar amount, and it ended up being okay. But yeah, this was a really close game actually. James is a lovely chap. He's actually, I think his first army was 100 Kingdoms, he was telling me. So he kind of knew everything that they were doing, and I was just like, so that kind of made talking about my army list quite easy, because it was like, oh yeah, that thing. He'd actually brought his son along, which was really cool. So he played some Wadroon, I think, and came over a couple of times during the game and was like, yeah, I'm getting absolutely trashed. But he was just so happy to be there, and I was like, this is really cool. So yeah, we played, like I say, a fairly close game. He brought a Hephaestion, bunch of hoplites, a few Minotaur Therians, I think, or the Haspis. I can't remember which ones. I think it might have been the Therians. But yeah, it was a very like kind of, I feel like positional game in some respects. I think we'd kind of matched ourselves up fairly well. But I think, yeah, there was a point at where my big bricker household knights had got far enough up the board that they were within charge distance of a Hephaestion. And I think what ended up happening roughly was that I won that supremacy roll. I managed to get them to go first. They killed him for the Hephaestion. And kind of from that point onwards, I think my household knights kind of made their way around, swinging around the back of the board. And as was the rest of my Ashen Dawn on the other side, they were kind of holding the line, doing exactly what they were meaning to do. But yeah, it wasn't like I didn't by any means trash it. So the actual score at the end of it, I wrote this down, was 61-67. So I think we ended up, we called it earlier, but we ended up, I think we called it maybe like turn 7, but we did obviously count down to the end of our game. We ended up getting to 61-67. So I think there are a few things left on the board. I think my Ashen Dawn might have survived. I think my household knights were still there, and I think he had some hoplites and some Agama still left. So it was a good game. I really enjoyed that. My second game was against Dan, who is great. He's also a City States player. We had a nice conversation with him in the pub next door to the tournament, actually, which is pretty cool. And yeah, like, I know Dan's quite a good player, and like, you can definitely get that sense when you talk to him, right? Like, he knows his stuff. He's obviously played quite a lot of war games. And so we started off the game. He had a list which is more kind of Therian and heavy. So he had that big block of cows with cleave 3 and a bunch of Thorikites, which I think are the lights for Greeks, for the City States. And they had basically everything he brought had the auxiliary thing in the regiments, where you can bring like a extra Minotaur
in with
either a Therian or a Haspist. And he did that with his list, and I think that was quite good, because it always meant he was getting some decent damage in, even with his light units. I'm like, you have a stand in your lights that have cleave 3. This is horrific. So we basically lined up and we played a bit of chicken with each other for the first few rounds. And I was like, this is horrible for me, because I am just being like, he's happy to wait around because he's the slow army, right? I'm the one who's meant to go up there, make the charge. I've got entirely cavalry. And so I run up my court squires, mount squires, into his line. His hoplites kill him off, no problem. But, you know, I've held him back a bit. Other stuff has arrived up the board. There's one called Mount Squires going into an objective marker. Actually, what scenario was this, Josh?
It was grind them down. It was the 4.
It's grind them down, yeah. Four objective markers, and then...
Oh, I thought it was...
Sorry, 4 objective zones, 2 objective markers.
Hope. Yeah, sorry.
Forlorn Hope, yeah, that's it. And there was a thing, I think you couldn't deploy from the centre of the board edges or something on the side. So you couldn't, like... But
for those players that actually use the sides.
Yeah, we really don't use that, do we? I wonder if anyone else does. I'd have to know about that. But yeah, so I was, at this point, I'm certain I'm going to lose, because he just zoned me out so well. And so because I was already at a place where I was just like, this sucks, when I activated my household knights, they activate after the Therians arrived on the board. And they only have a movement of 5 or 6, so they got up 12 inches or whatever. And my household knights were fairly far up, but not super far up the board. You know, I think it's 4 foot across still. And so I'd moved up, and I could get to him if I made a roll of a 5 or a 6. And so at this point, I'm like, normally I wouldn't make this decision, right? Because there's just no point of making a decision like that. But like, you're not going to get this. Just either march and charge. No, I think it was with a march and charge, I'd still need a roll of a 5 or a 6. So I do it, and I think the first dice I roll is a 6. And I'm like, yep, okay, I've got this. And so I get the March charge off. I actually don't expect his Therians to die. Then he reminds me, it's like, they're only defense 2.
And this is your block of 6.
My block of 6 household knights, yeah. So
heavy hitters.
They have the Noble Lord with them, so he's giving them re-rolls of 6 on their impacts. He's giving them a +1 to their clash on the impact with Terrifying 1. He's giving them a wedge, which is like cleave 1 if you end up doing a clash afterwards. This didn't really go off on that instance. But what then happened in that game was that my Crimson Tower went up the right-hand side, and they made a charge, then died off, because that's standard. And they killed a regiment or something like that, and then one flanked them. I think another Thorikites came in and finished them off. On the left flank, my Household Knights had done their work. They'd killed the Minotaur Therians completely, which I did not expect. I then turned them around and did that thing again where I just swept the back of the board off. Because once you kind of get that wheel round, you just flank charging the whole time, and it feels amazing. So I think if there's one point in that game I can kind of grind it down to, it is that roll of a 6.
Nice.
In the charge roll. And I think normally, so I did have a re-roll, so I could have re-rolled it if I needed to, but even then the maths isn't, I think we worked out, it's like still 50-50, right? And you don't want to be kind of making those decisions always. So I think in that game, the Household Knights got off 3 full charges with clashes. The second 2 had clashes, and it was just like, once you're snowballing like that, I think it's over. So he was really, really kind to me, actually, and he was like, look, I've lost this, but like, you want to be scoring as much as possible. And so I actually managed to put my knights in a way that meant they were scoring on 2 objectives. And we had to double check this if we could do this with David, but he was like, yeah, that's totally cool. And so he's like, right, you just stay there and you just put this regiment here so you can get this objective. And he's like, cool. And I'm like, cool, okay, thanks, bro. And so I don't think without his help we wouldn't have got it like this, but the score in the end was 15-64.
Nice.
And so that, at that point, at the end of the second game, put me in first place in the tournament. Because out of all the people who'd won twice, I was the highest score difference or something like that. I think I had like 160 points or something stupid.
Yeah.
No, it was 100 and something, but it was like, maybe. Yeah,
it's about
100 and something. 130 was it? Yeah, it was a lot. So at that point, I was feeling pretty good. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll win this thing, you know? I'm like, there's a little pipe dream there that I'm just like, oh, yeah. And then so David announces the 3rd round. I'm like, oh, I wonder who I'll go up against. And he announces Josh. And I'm like, well, it was good playing. And so, yeah, we ended up having a game. I played 100 Kingdoms into Josh's Old Dominion. We had a little Josh off. And yeah, that was a pretty good game.
We were head to head, you might say.
Oh, amazing! Yeah, that was. I think we were both a little bit tired by the end of that. By the end of the 2 games, and we basically, because we played so many games with each other, I think we got the first 2 rounds, first 3 rounds done in like 5 minutes. We were just like bang, bang, bang. Yep, roll the dice. There we go.
Yeah, we've played these exact lists against each other like 3 times. So we were like, right, you can do that. I'm going to do this.
100%. So I went for a bit of a fool's gambit and decided, Josh had deployed his Fallen Divinity up in the corner by the furthest objectives. There's 3 objective zones. There's one big one on the left, on my left, Josh's right. And that's kind of bang in the middle of the table, like kind of widthwise, lengthwise even. And then there were 2 smaller ones which you could score more VPs on, but you could only score the one that's further away.
Yeah.
And so Josh deployed his divinity in front of the one that's further away. And so I was like, you know what? I just want to go for this Fallen Divinity. I think I can take it out tier 1, which was just so foolish. So I went for it and I chucked both my Merit Squires up the right-hand side of the board, which I don't think was, in hindsight, a terrible idea anyway. I think it was later on when I then decided to commit more to that flank that I made the bad decision. I think we talked about this, Josh, but So, obviously what ended up happening is Josh actually put his Legionnaires right in front of the Fallen Divinity on turn 2. He got the roll off, but like, I think that I knew that was coming. I was just kind of hoping that maybe I could get in with a charge just before that happens, but I didn't. Ended up charging into his Legionaries. I think they just had a back and forth. I think both my Mount Squires were next to each other, and once I'd killed off enough of your Legionnaires that your Fallen Divinity was exposed, she then charged in and like kind of did. I was really surprised about how long they stuck around. Like, well, they just...
That's because at first I charged you at tier 1.
Yeah.
And I don't know what my... Oh, I remember I rolled really badly. So I got 8 attacks. I'm Clash 2, but I'm inspired because I've successfully charged. And I think I hit you like 2 times. Or maybe it was
rubbish.
Or it might have been 3 times, and then you saved one of them.
Yeah.
I did like 2 damage and maybe won the route.
Yeah.
I remember fantastic. Being like, oh, this might be a longer battle than I thought.
Yeah. So, Then I think on your other flank, you had your Praetorians and your Varangians. I put my Household Knight Brick and my Crimson Tower that side. Then I put my Ash and Dawn on the side with the Fallen Divinity, so my right. As well as a MSU of Household Knights, which I kept back for some stupid reason. But we kind of grinded it out, and in the end, Josh obviously wiped out my forces. But the one thing I did manage to do, I managed to kill the Fallen Divinity. I was quite pleased with that. I was like, yes, this thing is always the last thing on the board. I managed to kill it. I feel so pleased. But yeah, I remember I did a full charge in with my Household Knights into your Praetorians. And I remember you took off 2 stands after a charge. And I was just like, oh, that wasn't that much. And you're like, what? This is such a bad roll. And I was like, oh yeah, these Old Dominion, just don't take damage.
Yeah, I think you hit me like it was either 17 or 19 hits. It was something around there, which was
because when you're hitting on 4s, re-rolling 6s, it's just
it's so many.
It's filth, yeah.
And I was defense 4, but then you had brutal impact 1, so I was down to 3s, and I failed 12 of them. I remember being a bit like, oh, that sucks. Like that felt a bit rough. And then you just see me move 2 stands and put 2 wounds on, and you're like, what? Is that much left? I'm like, oh yeah, you'll still be taking like 16 Aura of Death on your next turn.
Yeah. Yeah, so the Aura of Death I was not looking forward to, but I knew it was coming. But yeah, I think it felt kind of close. Josh, I didn't even put down the score. Have you got the score? It'll be on Longshanks, won't it?
It'll be on Longshanks. Off the top of my head, I think it was 44-25.
44-25, okay.
So, I think, like from my perspective of that game, I sent basically like my MSU of Legionnaires with the Hydra Deacon down, just in front of the Fallen Divinity, or I slipped him in just in front on turn 2. And the idea was I was just going to send those 2 regiments down the left side of the board, and then I was going to send the other 1,000 points of my army down the right hand side of the board. Although I did end up at the end changing my mind, and because you had committed so much to the left hand side, sending my Cannonballs that way. But yeah, my 2 big bricks, like a 5 brick of Varangian, 5 brick of Praetorian with a reasonably killy Ziliarch in there, and Aura of Death 4. It was a lot down that right hand side, and I managed to get that objective after killing your household.
Like 3 turns, I think you ended up scoring at 4, and it was just like I couldn't come back from that. And there was a point we were like 15-3 or something. I was just like, normally I should be ahead here, and you're just already ahead on points. So I was just like, I think this is
yeah. I got it on turn 4-5, and I held it every turn but 1 in the end, where I'd like double charged your or I'd got both units in with your Crimson Tower. But yeah, so from my side, I think like it sucked losing the Fallen Divinity, but being able to sit on that objective for that many turns kind of
that's great,
clinched it for me. But yeah, it was a good game. It was a good game.
It was, man. Yeah, for sure. I think I'd like to note that actually the last 2 times we played that exact same list, I'd won.
I totally think I was losing.
Yeah, I was just like, mate, this sucks. And you did actually say at one point that the objective was quite nice for you. because there was a limited amount you could score on objective zones, and it was like killing. You got points for killing regiments, and when you're like, I'm going to table your army, that's
gift,
quite nice. So yeah, I think the objective was like quite nice for you, but it's also like, yeah, I don't know, like I definitely didn't play that the best I could have, for sure. But yeah, so those are my 3 games. I think I came in 4th, which I was pretty pleased about. Sadly, 1 away from, I think, getting a free regiment or something. So I'll have to try again harder next time. But yeah, and I think I've actually got the worst deal, because David was like, "Oh yeah, I'll give like the losers the best stuff first, or something like that." And I'm like, I'm literally the bottom of the bottle here. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, all around a great tournament. I think they've got a great community down there. And yeah, it was just nice to meet some new folk who love Conquest.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And 2 City States games. Never played City States before. But that was really fun. So I enjoyed that. Playing a new army for once. Still yet to play Wardrune or Dwagon. But I'm sure that will come at some point.
I will come next game.
I'll come with you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm building my stuff.
And hopefully, if Drew comes along, I'll get to play some Dwagon as well.
Or City States, or
whatever.
Kings, or whatever.
Yeah, whatever he's brought, because he's now bought half the Conquest army.
Do you want to work your games backwards, because we've just heard about your final one?
Yeah, sure.
Of course.
So, yeah, my list was as I said last week, it's pretty simple. Big block of Praetorians, big block of Varangians, some Canaphores, Fallen Divinity, and then an MSU of Legionnaires with a Hierodeacon. And I approached every single one of my games in pretty much the same way, which was I sent the Legionnaires and Fallen Divinity down one side of the board, and I sent pretty much the rest of the army down the other side of the board. Yeah. And it was quite nice that pretty much every one of the scenarios that kind of worked for me. Like most of them had, the 3 or 4.
There were 2 flanks that you had to focus on, yeah.
Exactly. So that was really good. And I had 2 games where my Fallen Divinity died, so that did suck.
Sure. That's something you've not experienced really before.
No. I think, do you know what it was? It was because I was kind of using my Hierodeacon and the token a turn for my Fallen Divinity to get the army to tier 2 quite quickly, like by the start of turn 4 I'm usually there. The problem I was having was my army wasn't dying that much,
right? Of course.
And so my Fallen Divinity kept dying like kind of in tier 2, but like I hadn't lost a single regiment by that point.
Right, sure.
And so I was like, oh right, so it was a bit of like a kind of bittersweet in terms of it's like, oh, my army's not dying quickly enough to power the Fallen Divinity, but then they were also just destroying whatever they were fighting. So I got a bit unlucky. So yeah, against you my Fallen Divinity died.
It was the Ashen Dawn in the end that did impact hits that I think neither of us were expecting to do any damage. So you saved your blessed for an attack roll or something like that, or a different defense. Then I came in with impact 3 and just basically rolled them all, and then you just failed them all.
Yeah, you used blessed on your impacts and landed all 9 of them, and then
you took like 7 or something.
Yeah, I took 7 out of 9 on a defense 3.
Brutal,
mate.
And I was like,
like no brutal impact, like just literally playing.
That sucked. And then as I said, because and as well on the other side of the board, you'd then retreated your Crimson Tower and chose not to attack, which like kind of helped me out in getting a few more points, but it also, because you didn't attack again, like no more stands were dying to like bump up my Dark Empowerment pool, so I was still a few points off hitting tier 3 and healing up and getting into safety. And then my second game where she died, the guy had like 5 Carotids, and so it was a bit risky. He had more cards than me, so my last move was to move my Fallen Divinity into a spot where next turn she could charge this big block, but it meant she got a turn of getting shot at.
Right.
And oh man, it was, I don't know, he's throwing 20 dice or something, maybe even more. Maybe I was in effective range and he'd got memories of old. It might have been 25 dice. I took so many hits at AP2, and that did like I think 7 damage to me. And Tourney had 5 left, and then it was literally a supremacy roll next turn. If I go first, I charge, and then once I'm in combat with those guys, it's I should be absolutely fine. Or or he goes first and he shoots me and I die, and
which is what happens.
It's down to no, actually, I had less cards, so it's down to it was slightly in my favour. I had but anyway, I lost the supremacy, got shot and died. And then that game, I just went, I was just annoying to play against. I just really eked it out on points.
Yeah, that's what you got to do, innit?
Oh, yeah, I was just annoying with it. So, like, I had like a full... My Praetorians on the other side had like contested his objective and then like killed off some legionnaires. And he had this big old brick of bone golems sitting at the back.
Yeah.
And so... because I was like holding the objective and there was like an MSU of legionnaires and then the bone golems behind, like I wouldn't attack the legionnaires. I would just like let them sit there. And
right. Okay.
Just be really annoying. And then I like brought some cannifors in, and like he'd like try to move his legionnaires back so he could charge through and get in contact. But then I'd like put my cannifors in just a way where he couldn't legally charge through. And
sure. Yeah.
I think about like 3 turns in a row, he just did like combat reforms and stuff to like move these bone golems around. And then every time I tried to do something awkward to make it so he couldn't charge next turn, I just felt so annoying.
Yeah, sure.
And then it was like 38-33 to me on points at the end.
Oh, okay.
So it was like quite a close one.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was proper me at the end, just like going real tactical points wise to try and just eke out a victory.
Sure.
But yeah, so that was my game 2. That was against Chris, who also played Old Dominion. Really fun. I was really excited I got to play against him because his list was quite different. He had a Archimandrite as a warlord, which I hadn't played against. Many people had done that. He had a big block of bone golems, which was like super nice and scary. Big block of carotid shooting stuff. That was nice and scary. So yeah, definitely gave me some ideas of fresh stuff to try out.
Nice.
And then my first game was against a guy called Peter. He was really friendly. We had a great chat. I think he hadn't played in quite a few months. I definitely hadn't played that much Old Dominion before, and that was a bit of a one-sided beatdown. That was I got the map didn't really help him with this like big object in the middle that was impassable, and he had these like big regiments that got a bit stuck maneuvering and stuff. So I managed to, weirdly as Old Dominion, get onto objectives first.
Wow.
Which was really something. And then I had some real hard to deal with blocks.
Yeah, you sent a text message, didn't you? Like relatively early on in the game, saying, "Guys, I'm 15-2 up.
Yeah, this is a weird game.
Not used to how this is feeling." And as soon as I saw that, I thought, you've got that game then. Like, there's no beating Josh. Second.
And so he was 100 Kingdoms as well, right?
He was 100 Kingdoms.
So you played me as well when you were like 15 points up, and I was like only 3 up. So you had 2 games where you were like quite far ahead on points, which is not normally what Old Dominion do. You're more of a late game breakthrough sort of, let's try and make points that way.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, in both the games against 100 Kingdoms, I am quite slow at moving. Like, I haven't even got Optios or anything on.
Right.
But people seem to kind of let me get the objective. I think they're a bit nervous, obviously, with these big blocks with Aura of Death or that hit hard. I think people were like a bit wary around them.
Not willing to chuck stuff into the meat grinder.
Yeah, and then I think that kind of allowed me to, not have to fight quite so hard for a location. But I think that game really felt summarised by the fact my big block of Rangians actually just moved up, sat on an objective, and I just sat on an objective all game.
Right,
and I let longbowmen just like shoot at them and do a couple wounds each round. I just did not care.
Yeah.
And then at the end, like, Sam comes over to see how I'm doing, and Peter I'm playing against goes, "Oh man, this army's so scary. Like, these Praetorians, like, and oh man, and like this fallen divinity. He's like these canophores. Like, how'd you deal with any of these three? And like Sam just points at the Varangians at the back and goes, "That's the scariest regiment he's got." The guy's like, I didn't
even know
the whole game.
Yeah. So that was a bit of confidence at the start of the tournament, because as I said going in, I was worried the army was just going to be too slow and the Fawn Divinity wasn't going to be competitive enough.
I remember talking to you about, like, you were thinking about, who's going to win the wooden spoon.
Well, maybe on that note, shall I tell you how my
Oh, bless you, mate. Yeah, go on, Sam. Tell us about your...
Well, it's fair to say that my opening game didn't build confidence for the rest of the day in the same way that yours did. I was up against Chris, who you played with his Old Dominion, and those bone golems. I can't remember how many he had in his block room. Was it maybe only
5?
6 or 5?
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, I can't remember how many regiments
felt like a million.
I sent into that, but it was a lot. That was at least 1,000 points of my army I lost trying to get rid of the bone golems and didn't succeed. So it was. I just chucked everything at everything that he had, and nothing that I did any damage. I'm pretty certain that I didn't remove a single one of his regiments in the whole game. And I lost. I didn't even realize that you can score this many points. You know when you look at a scenario and you sort of add up what's the total number of points it's ever possible to get. I didn't realize that it is actually possible to get that high. So yeah, I lost the first game 86-25.
Oh, mate.
Right, so that's quite a significant
I remember you telling me that, because I think I beat Peter like 71-22, and we'd actually forgotten to count a few turns where we'd had 2 objectives and you get a bonus 2 points. But I was like, oh, it's not going to matter. No one else is going to score this high. I was like, I'm not going to be fussy over a couple of 2 pointers. And then Sam comes over and goes, yeah, Chrissy just smashed me, got 86 points. I was like, it's like 86 in one game, and he's Old Dominion.
I think it just felt like, for me, like my game plan, it was working. And I know, we said last week, it was a bit of a sort of 2 half armies stitched together, and it was there for a bit of fun, really. But, my stuff, it was kind of doing what it was meant to do, and then it would die. And then the next thing would come up, and it would do what it's meant to do, and then it would die. And so I got the early points in turn 2, 3.
Yeah.
And then nothing else that I did. He did a really interesting move, actually. He had his bone golems. He won this supremacy roll. I was about to send my Siegebreaker Behemoth sort of past my big block of force-grown drones to meet them, because they have evasion 0. So it's like, that's the one I wanted to hit. And rather than going for the space so that he could get into the objective zone, which is what I thought was the logical move, he sort of diverted it to then meet my force-grown drones, but off at an angle so that he couldn't get charged, and he moved another unit down the side. So that just stopped me from being able to do anything. It was a really smart move in hindsight. I didn't see it coming at all. Yeah. And it was just Aura of Death against Aura of Death. And I just rolled unlucky the whole game, and he rolled pretty lucky the whole game. But it felt like it was absolutely fair, because I did play against him at LGT, and I beat him reasonably badly then.
Sure, so there's a bit of payback for him.
Yeah. It was an absolutely fair result. He played it way better than I did. And the ranged attacks, he's played it so smart. So I went in to game 2 in last place. Then I played against the Phil, who was playing Old Dominion, a very different Old Dominion list. And was it Phil? Yeah, I think his name was Phil. No?
I don't know.
I think it was Phil.
Sam, we can't get names wrong, especially considering how much we've made a fuss about our names being gotten wrong.
No, I think it was Phil. I shouldn't have even questioned it. His name was Phil. And I
without a shadow of a doubt. And he's just listening, and he's like, his name's Mark. And he's like, maybe I am Phil.
I found the second game really, really fun. Like, it was a really interesting game. Like, everything was clustered around the middle. There was this big impassable piece of terrain right in the center of the board, and so we'd kind of both gone for the markers nearest to us, and then were moving things around. He had bone golems again in this one, and managed to get my Force-grown drones into them, but it was a smaller unit. He took the Aura of Death, and it took him a while, but they did go. He charged into me with some character. I made a stupid move. I really don't know why I did it. Even at the time, I was thinking, why on earth am I doing this? Oh, I've put it down, so it must be going there now. Sure. I saw my brute drones, which is like my big objective holding. They do actually do a bit of damage. They were sitting there, and I saw him lining up for the charge. Very transparent. And I thought, I don't want them to take the charge because that's my most important unit.
Right.
I'm going to put an abomination in between. The abomination, well known for not withstanding a feather, knocking against it by mistake. Yeah. So of course he just charged into abomination, killed it in one turn, and then that overrun to then take it into the brute drone. So they got charged anyway, which I knew that was going to happen, but it didn't do much damage. And then they hit back harder than they got hit, and so he ended up combat withdrawing and running back up towards his own line. And I thought, got the game now, I just need to chase him.
Yeah.
And then I was already kind of scoring. So yeah, it was I did win that. I can't remember what the scoreline was, but it was pretty heavily balanced in my favor, although it felt like a really enjoyable game. Like it wasn't unfairly balanced in the combat side of things.
Sure. You both got to kind of do some cool stuff.
Yeah. It was really interesting. You know how you just sort of look at a map halfway through a game and go, wow, it's a really odd position. I've never kind of seen something quite like that. So it was really nice. Final game was against a guy, Pete, who was that 100 Kingdoms player that you had played. And I had my game plan, and I don't know what it was. I just did it dumb. Again, I made this early move with my Strix where I thought, do you know what would be really funny? He's got this longbowman lining up in the back, and I know what they can do, and he's covering them with men-at-arms and Gilded Legion. I just need to send my Strix over there, get in the side of the longbowman. That's the thing that's going to protect me from this game.
Sure.
And so instead of being sensible and holding the Strix back and letting the Gilded Legion or whatever move forward a little bit, start to get into combat, and then run around the side of the board.
Yep.
I thought, what if I win the supremacy roll next turn? I'll move the Strix like within an inch of the enemy unit, and then I'll win the supremacy roll, and I'll just jump over them next turn. And it's like, that's never how I work. I always assume I'm going to lose that roll. And this time I thought, no, I'll do it. That's more fun. And of course he won it and just charged straight into them and killed them in one turn.
Yeah.
So turn 3, my Strix had gone. Later in that same turn, I think that he then charged my Force-grown drones and wiped them out as well. And they took the Ferromancer with them. So I said to him, once that happened, it's game over now. I haven't got my Warlord, my army rules. So my brutes were just, they took a while to die, but they did die. Didn't do anything that I wanted to until his Ashen Dawn and Crimson Tower came down to kill off my Avatara, which they were always going to do. That little combination is difficult to fight against, but I'd got the Siegebreaker Behemoth in, sitting right there, clashed into the side of the Crimson Tower. Every maths student in the world would tell you that it's going to wipe them out in one turn, and I rolled badly and he rolled well, and so a set of 3 Crimson Towers still left, still alive, and then I wiped out the Ashen Dawn.
How can he roll well on that? Because it's got smite, no? Oh, on the resolves.
What defense of Crimson Tower?
3 with a shield, so they shouldn't have any defense with smite.
Maybe I'd gone into their. I must have gone into their front. So with Brutal Impact 3, it took it down to 1.
Oh, it was impact. Okay, yeah.
And then it was something like I rolled, the 8 attacks and I got 1 hit in.
Oh,
it was just useless. But it did. Sucks. Then it took out the Ashen Dawn like a knife through butter. It was very satisfying.
It did the Ashen Dawn. Okay, that's
despite
good.
The fact that on that scenario, I don't think you scored any points for regiments. It was only for characters and warlords.
It was just characters, I think. Yeah,
right, yeah. And so I was reasonably close to 0 points if it wasn't actually 0 that I scored.
Wow.
So when they announced the list from the bottom up, he said, and in last place I was fully expecting him to say my name, and it wasn't because I'd won that second game. So I think I got 14th out of 18, something like that.
Okay.
Might have been 16.
I
was definitely propping up the bottom of the table.
Yeah.
No problem at all.
Yeah.
But at least you got to see your siege breaker do what you wanted him to do, right? Your whole list was to take him and let him do some fun, and him killing some Ashen Dawn.
It must have been a nice little moment of catharsis for you.
The number of times, I don't even know if I've ever killed Ashen Dawn before. It feels like that's...
I feel like even games I lose, there's just like one stand of them left.
Yeah, like that's the unit that is always still there when I'm taking my last unit off the board. And so the fact that I think, okay, I've now seen it doing what it is meant to do, even though the first 2 games that I played were against Old Dominion, where pretty much everything has got evasion.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it was good, but fun day overall. Great to...
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
Brilliant, yeah.
It was nice seeing the downfall of Ashen Dawn, actually. Those same Ashen Dawn tried to fight a tier 3 Thorn Divinity in the first game.
Oh.
They did 3 points of damage over 3 clashes.
Oh,
man. So some Ashen Dawn did get killed in the end. But not my Ashen Dawn, baby! Yeah, I think they survived every game, actually, which is
they're
always
so good.
fun. We love them. Yeah, mate, I think that's really good. That was really good. You know what? Actually, I did want to make one little shout out to Dan, because I'd just come from playing James, who was the guy who I took the first Sea States player I played. He was a 100 Kingdoms player previously, knew the army like the back of his hand, so I didn't have to explain much to him. And so I retained that mindset. So when I went into the next game, I explained most of what my army did, but I forgot to tell him that my household knights could have +2 to their charge distance. I feel like that does make quite a big difference. And I feel like whenever I play against you guys just know that, right? And you know to expect it. And you're like, oh, you can add a bit to your charge, can't you? But I didn't specifically tell Dan this, so I don't know. I can't tell what difference that made. Whether it was just like he wasn't expecting. He put his Therians. I think he moved his Therians as full movement. But I don't know if he fully expected them to be even able to charge, even with a ridiculous roll.
yeah.
But like even at the point where I decided to make the charge roll, I don't think he was looking particularly like, oh, like this is over. But I think when he saw the 6, it was like, cool. Good game.
What is it? I mean, that's like a move of 8 and then
Move of 7.
7, and then another 7 +2,
Yeah.
+5.
Plus,
'Cause you
it
rolled
would
your
have. It would have been
21 inches.
Yeah, 21 inches. That was exactly what it was. Yeah.
Oh wait, no. If you did it was just a movement. It was a move and clash, right?
Move and charge.
Is it? Oh, it was
So
a
I
move
only
and
did
charge.
impacts,
You didn't even
yeah.
clash.
Nope, and they wiped out the
That is
Therians.
so.
Yeah.
That is so far as well. 20.
So far, man.
Mate.
It's just so dumb.
Like an abomination, isn't it?
The only thing worse than that was I saw James, who won the tournament. I walked over in one of his games, and because of the fanatic and the triple thing, he'd got some of his hunters, Raptor Riders. That was it. Moved from 27 in one turn.
Yeah. That's longer than the longest ranged unit, isn't it?
It's just mad.
Yeah, it's actually longer than any shooting possible in the game.
I think they've got fluid formation as well. They were facing a direction. I was like,
How did
that even? That's like you drifted.
I was like, how did they get from like the other side of the board and now they're facing back towards?
Oh man.
But yeah, there you go. That was my only shout out. I didn't get to face James this time.
Oh no, you were really hoping to face him, weren't you?
No, I was actually really gutted you didn't face him. I didn't want to face him. I didn't want to face that Tonsaw.
I would have liked to play him. I think it would have been interesting. I don't know how he did against other 100 Kingdoms. If he played them, I think he must have at some point.
And therefore won.
Say again?
And therefore won.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, James is just he's a very good player. So
Josh, you now have the dubious honour of having been in the final of 2 different tournaments.
Yep.
And not managing to get into the top 2. Even in this one, you're in the final, you win it, and you end up 3rd.
No, I was second. I was second.
You were
second.
second. You were second.
But I didn't lose. I didn't lose and I came second.
Yeah, you didn't lose.
Yeah, whereas the last time, the LGT a couple of years ago, I lost to James in the final and then came third.
You came third because of
points. Yeah, it's always the points that...
You've got to make sure you're getting extra points when you do this thing. But yeah, he made so many points up in his last game. Like, I was kind of a little bit gutted that I didn't win our game. Obviously, I was gutted I didn't win our game. But because I was ahead on points, I was like, if I win between us, I'm pretty sure I'd win the tournament. And honestly, he scored so many points that I don't think I would. I think he still would have come first.
You might have done. When I don't know how they worked out quite at the end, but I remember when I looked on the table at the end of game 2, you had 100 and I want to say 36.
Yeah.
And I had like 106, and then James had like 104.
Yes. So because of that slight points difference, if you'd have had slightly less, then you probably would have faced someone else, and I might have faced James. Yeah, because it would have been first and second, so I would have faced James. But
which is what I wanted to happen. I did not want to face you, and I wanted you to feel the pain of the tontor.
Oh yeah, that is a game I would have almost certainly lost if I played James.
The tontor's so horrible.
Yeah, it looks terrifying. Although you'd have to get the double charge off with the Household Knights and the Crimson Tower to finish that bad boy off. But trample 10.
Anyway.
I mean, just 10 auto hit. I hate auto hits in this game. Just Aura of Death, just go away.
After they've nerfed the tontor, then I shall have my revenge against James.
Nice. Well, on that lovely note, let's end the broadcast there. Josh, since you were our highest scoring podcast member in the tournament, why don't you tell us what the email is?
The email is joshingaroundinea@gmail.com.
Shall I just correct that?
Yeah, please do. You said joshing around at Aya.
Oh.
So
joshing around in Aya.
Yeah.
Now we're going to have to have a second email address for just so we don't ever miss an email.
Yeah. So yeah, if you've got any questions, send it in. The email will also be in the description. Since Josh messed up so bad.
You should put it wrong in the description as well. Yeah.
On that lovely note, we'll end the podcast. So thank you so much for listening.
Thanks for listening.
See you later.